Nick is such an unusual figure, and not to embarrass the sound man, but he came up with my friend Lori, who works with him on kind of marketing and positioning, and assumed that he was the speaker, because this young kid, how could he be the speaker? But he's in the U.S. the equivalent of a senior in high school. He works for Yahoo. He's going to go to college. He's just announced a major product in the tech sector. He sold his company over a year ago for $30 million, and that's a pretty unusual situation, but he handles it with a lot of aplomb, as you'll see. Actually, let me start by asking, were you personally changed, would you say, by selling your company for $30 million at 17?
Well, I mean, yes and no, because I've always had the intent to want to. It's something that's always been a passion of mine, and so all I'm doing now is it's been augmented. I get to do apps, but with more resources, a better team, and learn more. So in that sense, it's been really facilitating, right, selling to Yahoo and everything else. I was a bit nervous about would it change me personally, would I behave differently and everything else, but I found that because I love the product and focus on that, things have been very similar.
Okay, and you've stayed in London, worked with your team in Yahoo in Sunnyvale remotely, and you're taking your exams for college now, which you have to do well on in the UK in order to get in school anyway, I understand, which is kind of weird in your case. But where do you want to go?
I'm not really certain at the moment. I want to try and keep all my options open. And I think also, even if I do go to university, next year or anything else, it's not mutually exclusive with what I do at Yahoo, because as you've said right now, I'm having to sit exams. It's kind of a bit weird. I was at CES last week. I fly back, I have to go to school, do a maths exam, then go to the Yahoo office in London. So I'm getting used to this kind of multitasking. I actually find that it's complementary. The maths that I'm learning at school actually does help with the stuff at Yahoo too.
Okay, well, we'll maybe come back. I bet it does. We'll come back to some of that. In the meantime, let's just go to the news. You just were a kind of prominent figure at CES. Was that last week or week before last?
Last week, yeah.
You announced Yahoo News Digest. Why don't you quickly show it to us and tell us what it is you've developed and why you think it's important?
Sure, so it should come up on the screen now. So you can see in the right over here. A bit of background on the product. We were acquired last year in March. In 2 weeks, we integrated the Sumly tech into the main Yahoo app. And then I wanted to go and actually evolve the Sumly experience that we had on mobile. And so this is a direct evolution of what we were doing there.
Just quickly describe Sumly, which was the company that basically Yahoo bought, although it's not the same as this.
Sumly we built an algorithm with SRI, which would take long-form content and algorithmically summarize it down into paragraphs. That was the intent behind it. We launched an iPhone app in November of 2012. It was available on the store for about 5 months until we were acquired. And we had about 1 million downloads and users at that point. So the notion there was to take long-form content and summarize it and make it easier to consume on a mobile device. So this product is the direct evolution. So if I open up the application, you'll notice we have what we're calling a digest. So a lot of news apps have infinite streams of information, but it's kind of paradoxical because you can't get to the bottom, and so you're endlessly going from one app to another, and you don't get a sense of completion, like I'm done with my news for the morning or evening. So in this product, what we do is twice a day, once in the morning and once in the evening, we send you this digest, and these are the top stories, the need-to-know definitive stories of the day. But what's really exciting is if I open a story, you don't get a traditional headline and 1,000 words of text, but you get a summary. So this is a summary that's come from multiple publishers. It's called a multi-document summary. And then we have these units of information that we're calling atoms. So each unit gives a unique context on a story. And in a sense, these are all summaries themselves. So you have a video, a map, a set of images, some Wikipedia context coming in on an entity related to the story, some off-network content, even some tweets. And what's really nice is at the bottom of the article, you can then go and read all of the original sources that we use to synthesize those units of information. And as a user, all I do is I can just swipe from story to story and kind of go in and parse these units of content. So they're like modules, right? We're calling them atoms. And what's really cool about the product, though, is if I go in quickly and read all of the stories of the day, there's only 8 in this case for tonight, I come to the bottom and you get this little animation. And what it's signifying is that I've now done. I've kind of got my digest, I'm in the know and I'm informed, and there's a sense of completion, almost like gamification when it comes to news and information. Now, as a user, I can then go in and read more stories if I want, but what's really nice about this product is it's finite, just twice a day, once in the morning, once in the evening. So that's a little demo, and this is, for example, Sunday mornings. So because this is in America, by the way, the latest one is the Sunday night one, because here it's only just gone Monday morning. But in a
It's
few
only
hours,
available in the U.S. right now.
at the moment, exactly.
Is that it?
Well, I mean, longer, no, that's not it. Longer term, we do want to bring this to other markets, other platforms. The application's been available for about 10 days now. It's coming #1 in the news category on the App Store. 4.5 out of 5-star reviews. So far, the feedback seems to be very positive. But with this product, we're experimenting with a lot of new paradigms, whether it be finite or bi-daily consumption, or these summaries, these units of atoms. So it's really good to see user feedback and see how we can evolve the product.
So the text you see in this product is analogous to what Sumly would have produced before, which is actually written by an algorithm, an editor, a combination?
It's actually, so this product, it's a hybrid. So at Sumly, it was purely algorithmic. We would take the article and we would summarize it into the paragraph, and that would be it. There'd be no human touch or curation. In this product, because it's a bi-daily thing and because the stories are finite, we wanted to ensure we had 100% precision in the system. Because without precision, a service can lack reliability, and without reliability, you don't get the engagement that we want. We want people to trust this app. They don't have to check anything else. They just come onto the digest twice a day and get their roundup. And so we make sure that every news story, although it's being sourced and produced initially algorithmically, like those units, it then does get checked by an editor to make sure that the content is accurate. And I actually think longer term, it's nice to have this hybrid model of algorithm plus editor.
You know, there's several things about it that are unusual in the kind of contemporary app ecosystem, and one is that, as you say, it's finite. For a news app, that's an interesting conceptual approach, and also it sort of presumes the need for a kind of common experience, because is it 8 stories, is that it?
It's arbitrary, so it depends. If it's a big news story, they could have 10, you know.
Okay, but it's a finite number of stories that are delivered identically to all of your customers globally? Or when you go global, will that be the same, or will it just be by country? Is it, in the US, it's all Americans are getting the same stories, but how does that going to roll out quickly?
I mean, you look at what newspapers do, they have an international version, so we could do something similar there.
Okay, but the common experience thing is a big point of belief for you. Talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this idea of definitiveness and kind of a comprehensive digest or summary of the information of the day has been lost on digital, quite frankly. Because there's a deluge of information on Twitter, which is great, and other services, what tends to happen is there's this ephemerality in the sense that a story appears on Twitter, within 5 seconds it might have disappeared already. Now, I'm not sure about the numbers, but the odds of you going back and surfacing that content are pretty slim. And the problem with this is that all stories seem to have the same hierarchy. Right? It's like all of these stories, because they're all coming through Twitter or any other service, and it's an infinite stream of information, every story has the same weight. And as I was saying earlier, it's paradoxical because you can't finish an infinite stream. So for certain use cases, for example, I want to get my tech news for the morning, I'll go on like the Yahoo other app, which is personalized, I'll get my tech news. But there's another use case we're trying to solve with this product, which is efficiency. Give me the content that I need to know in the quickest amount of time. That's our KPI. It's not how long did you spend in the app, it's actually how quickly did we get you in and out of this product and get you informed. And I think this idea of a uniform kind of, these are the top stories of the day, newspapers have been doing it for years, and similarly the morning and evening news have been doing it. So we haven't invented this new paradigm. I think what we've tried to do is modify it for digital and for phones.
So would you eventually do something similar for tech news, business news? Is that in the plans?
It definitely could be. My hypothesis was that people have their sources for vertical-driven content. So you have your blogs that you might go to, or you have your publications. But actually for the more broad general news, because of the way the internet works, potentially it's less about where the content comes from and more about what's being sourced. How accurate is that information? What's the visual form of it? And that's where I think we wanted to really aggressively come up with this new model of these units of information, or these atoms, right? Because we feel like this is a really immersive experience and it's optimized for the phone screen.
Okay, and so I think there's several things about it that are surprising coming from a 17, 18-year-old, and many of them would be presumed impossible by older people. I mean, even the notion you're kind of harking back to the time when everybody read the same newspaper in a given city or country, right? And you're trying to kind of return us to a sort of common experience. Meanwhile, you are a uber representative of a late millennial generation, we presume, are totally reveling in fragmentation. I mean, how do you explain that? Is there a misinterpretation of the will of sort of young digital natives?
I think two things. I actually think there's a bit of a paranoia. I mean, that's a strong word, but it's kind of a paranoia around this idea of wanting to be intelligent or be smart and in the know. And I think actually, like, a lot of the friends I speak to, they want to be informed on current affairs. They don't want to seem ignorant. But the problem is it's not exactly practical sometimes to read a physical newspaper. And then I was saying the problem with things like Twitter and Facebook is that you don't get that sense of, here are the things that matter, and I'm allowed to feel okay with that, because you're always uncertain. There could always be another thing, and there's this like anxiety. People are like constantly refreshing their streams, going, did something else break? Is there something else? And what it's lending to is people kind of checking their phones constantly. So I think for people my age, that I am constantly refreshing my Twitter stream, my Facebook stream, my Snap, for certain use cases. So that's like my social life. But when it comes to news and information, I see it more as a utility as opposed to recreation. And so in that sense, I want to be efficient. I want to be in and out as quickly as possible. But for something like social networks, that's different. A lot of people spend a lot of time on those.
Somebody, actually, a very interesting column in The Atlantic by Alexis Madrigal recently was talking about the decline of the reverse chronological feed as a methodology, which has been accepted by old people like me as sort of a given, but it's actually dying. Facebook's algorithmic, news feed definition, et cetera, and what you're doing is another step in that direction. But a question. Given your immersion in this news arena, and certainly so many people wring their hands about the future of professional media, what have you kind of concluded, or what are some of your thoughts about where professional media is going in an age where this sort of presentation might be beneficial?
Well, I think it's exciting because, as you can see in this product, we need all of the original content to be sourced. Do you know what I mean? We still depend on, we can't synthesize the news out of nothing. We need good journalism. We need the original articles, the original content. And what I would say as well is we're not trying to steal away that content, right? We use the wire service like Reuters and Associated Press. Yahoo's been doing that for 15 years. What's unique about this product is the synthesis of these atoms and the presentation layer. And I think all media companies, all publishers need to rethink the model of how people want to consume on a phone. Because as you can see in this product, although we call ourselves a news app and everything else, both the design but also these stories, they don't necessarily feel like text. There's probably more, in this case as Wikipedia, but there's more visual content on this screen than you would see in most applications and products. So kind of rethinking the article structure to actually accommodate to the mobile screen real estate and also the need of what people want on their phone, which is, I've only got 2 minutes, give me the content. I don't necessarily want to read one in-depth story, which would take me the same amount of time to pass through 15 summaries. Is quite interesting.
But what do you think, do you think we should worry about the ability of professional news to sustain itself as an industry? Do you have any thoughts on that specifically?
I don't really spend my time thinking about that too much.
You're an observer that's in an interesting position.
I think it's evolving very quickly. And there's an acceleration, I think, especially when it comes to these mobile products. The news category right now, actually, if you go in and look at the rankings, it's very contested. Every week there's a new product launching. Some are trying to do audio and sound. Some are trying to aggregate hundreds of sources and publishers. Some are trying to do like this, the summaries. And so I think it's not clear what the outcome is going to be and where the winner is. What I do think does need to happen and will continue to happen is, traditional journalism, so in the sense of having newspapers and these mediums, I think will exist.
Okay, so you've done this by 18. What do you want to do by 25? What do you want to do by 45?
I just want to keep working on these ideas that I find really fascinating. I like languages, and I've been working on this problem for about 3 or 4 years now. If you take the original app, Trim It, and Sumly, now this News Digest product, and I still think there's a long way to go in terms of just if you abstracted a level beyond news and information, which this product clearly is, you get into this realm of knowledge and just understanding and learning. And it's really interesting because this experience I wanted to feel almost educational, as opposed to, so the fact that we kind of down here in the stream have some Wikipedia coming in, giving you context, all right? Although that seems kind of trivial, the point behind that was you might not necessarily know about this breach. You might not have the historic context. And so I want you to feel like you learn in this product and you're getting smarter. And so I, for a number of years, have been teaching myself things on the side of school. I'm really passionate about this idea of self-learning, or autodidacticism, it's formally known as. Because clearly there's some great companies that are emerging now that are teaching people to code, or there's MOOCs and Coursera and everything else, and it's really exciting. But I think that industry also has a lot of evolution similarly to this, it could be quite interesting.
In an area where you would like to play more of a role.
Potentially. I mean, it's a passion of mine right now and a hobby. But I feel like there's a natural progression from the work that's being done here, or some of the ideas behind the summarization and the understanding of the text, and where you could evolve that to in terms of textbooks and online learning.
That's interesting. So what do you want to study in college?
I would love to do philosophy. That's something that, and I've said this before.
I would love you to do philosophy.
Great. Well, then it should.
Well, I mean, and then apply it somehow. I mean,
Yeah.
the conversation earlier kind of suggested the need for a little of that, but go ahead.
No, absolutely. I think it's great. Like, philosophy is all about inquiry and higher order analysis, and like, for hundreds of years, philosophers have been dealing with a lot of these problems, for example, in semiotics or language, and how you demonstrate and show text, and what's the best way for people learning. And so I would love to go to a university where you do philosophy, you also do computer science. I need to get the formal training. I mean, I'm no expert at all when it comes to AI or coding. It's just something I'm trying to learn as I go along. So I'm super passionate about the idea of kind of formally training myself in that field. But then also, I think there's a risk some people get too narrow and specific. And I was saying to you earlier, the people I idolize are these polymaths from the Renaissance era, like Leonardo da Vinci or whatever, who were good at so many different things. And they prided themselves on being self-learners. Pre-kind of education. This is just kind of people with their own passion. And so that's, like, I think, something that I'd love to do, like, whether or not it's in a formal education system, just kind of keep learning and trying.
So you want to broaden your own knowledge and interests. It's interesting because we were talking yesterday, you were asking about colleges. Somebody was advising you to go possibly to a school where you could study computer science in a liberal arts context,
right.
Which I would reinforce that, actually. So what about you all? What do you have to ask or comment? Well, I especially ask this extraordinary young man. Who's going to question for him? You've struck them dumb. Okay, over here. Can we get a mic to her real fast? I think it's going to come to you quickly enough. And identify yourself, please.
Hi, I'm Caroline Drucker. I think one of the things that I find really intriguing about your viewpoint on the news is that in many senses I see it as a very optimistic view about the intelligence of people. And currently we're seeing a lot of news organizations going towards a very entertainment-driven source. So a lot of attention is being focused on Vice. And they've essentially said that young people don't really care about existing news. Well, what's your opinion on that? And also, full disclosure, I used to work at Vice many, many years ago.
I think Vice is really cool. I mean, I love their documentaries and their YouTube videos. I watch it, and I know Shane, it's really cool. This is a different use case, I'd argue, this product. Like, Vice is great for certain kinds of content and news, and I know they just launched Vice News and everything, so that's exciting to see what happens there. But this product, I think, I am trying to be a bit more traditional in the sense of this morning, evening newspaper paradigm, which is similar to newspapers. I think they can all be harmonious, though. Like, in my consumption behavior, I don't just solely use this product in isolation. I still check Twitter. I still check some of the other news apps. I still check Facebook. And I think having that rounded view is great. The point of this product is this is so you check it to make sure you didn't miss anything. So it's almost like you can quickly come in, skim the headlines, move on. It's giving you that sense of completion, which I think is what newspapers have done in the past, but less so has been focused on digitally recently.
That was a nice question, though. Who else? Okay, here.
Hi, my name is Yael Swerdlow, and I'm actually a recovering journalist. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for doing what you're doing, because it gives me hope.
Yeah, the optimism that was pointed out earlier is really a wonderful thing to observe in you, I have to say. Okay, let's hear another good comment like that. Oh, please.
Hi, my name is Nancy. I was wondering, what do you think is the difference in purpose between what this app is trying to accomplish and Circa?
Good question. I think there are a lot of aggregators, as I was saying, and news products that do different things. I think Circa's focus on breaking news and following.
Just define it, will you quickly,
Yeah.
Circa?
So Circa's another news app in the space, and it's there's probably like 5 or 6 of the main competitors. They're one of them. I think Circa's differentiated in the sense they want to you're following the stories and it's about breaking news, which is good. Clearly, they also have a nice focus on the facts and disseminating things down into that, and I think that's great. I've always tried to do with this product and with what I was doing at Sumley, have a very algorithmic focus and the synthesis of these units of information. That's kind of been my spin on it. But I think, as I was saying, they're all harmonious. I don't think one application needs to dominate the space, and actually you can see that's evolved over the last 2.5 years on the App Store. If you look at the top 10 apps in the space, every week they're different and they're evolving and changing, and everyone's trying a new app on their phone constantly. So I see them as obviously a competitor like all the other products, but at the same time I don't see them as like one has to win. I think both can win.
Sadly, oh, okay, one more from, Esther. Is that Esther?
Esther Dyson. I'm curious, you've now joined Yahoo. You've brought them a really wonderful product with a specific vision. What advice are you giving to Marissa about what else she could do?
Nice.
Nah, nah. I think, clearly I'm not giving her advice, but, I'm enjoying working in the mobile team because if you look at the last few apps Yahoo has launched, clearly the weather app's probably the pinnacle, but there have been other products. The quality is just getting better and better, and it really is. And it's fascinating to kind of be in that team. I work on this product, I'm the product manager for this, but I interact daily with all the other teams, and there's some really nice synergy and collaboration. So I think that the strategy of mobile first and just creating excellent products and experiences is great. And I also think the design ethos that Yahoo's developing is really interesting, if you look at some of the recent products. And so I'm excited to see how that evolves in the future on mobile, because that's what I've only been doing apps, that's the thing I like to do, so that's the thing I spend my time thinking about.
Yeah, the Yahoo weather app's so good. I think it's inspiring a lot of other apps. They're copying it like crazy. Anyway, unfortunately, this guy, good as he is, has to come off stage. Please keep talking to him off stage. I know I will. He's amazing.